what it made me realise is, a few weeks ago I said that what Slot has done really well in his time at Liverpool is he's been able to identify players and optimise them and get them better. Last week we spoke about the fullback thing, but I think it's the Anfield Rap. One of them did a really good video and if you put everyone's positions at Liverpool where they want to play, it's top heavy. It's top heavy, and there's not a lot of synergy between their players.
Can't lie, you're talking about Liverpool.
When I was watching Verts at one point, I was like, bro wants to be a second striker, but they need a cam. Like, he's here, but they need someone to be here. You're seeing Salah go wide, but there's no one there. And like watching them and actually like paying attention to it, it just feels like they're disjointed. But what I don't want people to do is, because they've lost 3 games, be like it's Slot out. This is the first bit of... It's the first...
Everybody is panicking.
It's the first blip they've had.
All Liverpool fans are panicking. You know, this is the first time he's lost back-to-back games.
It's
panic.
Yeah,
no,
panic.
No,
Panic. Panic.
Act like some damn champions.
Panic.
Yeah? Have some respect for yourselves. This is the first back-to-back loss they've had, I understand. Galatasaray away is never fucking easy, bro. All of a sudden now, going to Stamford Bridge, because of the last couple of years, people think, oh, it's an easy... I'm like... Bro, these actually aren't. Crystal Palace won it last second. And everyone's talking about Slot out. Yo, this guy's lost it. He doesn't know what he's doing this season.
Right, but
do you know one thing I realised?
Them.
Yeah.
I agree. But here's the thing. Everyone's immediately turning on Slot. Despite him in his first season, everyone's talking about his tactical changes. He's delivered a title in his first year. Now it's like the first bump in the road. Everybody's turning their back on him. Why is it immediately it's on the manager? Do you know what I've clocked nowadays? Everybody falls in love with all their new signings. Everyone's got their favourites, whether they're Team Robbo, Team McAllister, Team Salah, and they never want to criticise their favourites. But no Liverpool fan can look at that squad and tell me anybody, bar maybe Grav, Sobbo, has played over a 5 or 6 out of 10 this season. Konate, excuse me? McAllister, excuse me? Any of the record signings that have come in, I think Ekitike has been the only signing that's come in that has looked level.
Say it again.
Ekitike has been the only one.
How many players did they sign? Is it 5 or 6?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. How much was spent?
Mamachvili, to be fair, had a decent debut. I can't lie. He pulled off a couple of saves.
No, but he was signed kind of before it came and whatnot. But they signed 5 key main signings.
But for me, it's a case of nobody's looking at the players and saying they're not delivering the bare minimum. Is that the Salah you saw last year? Is that the Konate you saw last year? Is that the Isaac you've been used to? Is that the Florian Wirtz you signed? Is that the McAllister we've been used to?
But like, down to the manager to get them.
Of course, that's down.
Playing,
but when 11 players fall off the cliff, and here's the other thing. Last night, I think after the game, Virgil van Dijk spoke about the off the field, what's happened as much as on the field is going wrong. Why is everyone just choosing to overlook that? Because prior to the season starting, everyone's talking about how Jota's thing is going to affect them or whatever. And because they started the season so perfectly with the 5 out of 5, it was like, they're over that. And it's like, nah, brother, it's going to, at some point, it's going to hit them. And Virgil mentioned it last night, and I saw so many people on Twitter like, the excuses have begun already. And I'm like, you lot are insane. You lot are already turning your back on Klopp. You lot already, no one's calling out the players for not even dropping the bare minimum, bro. You're not seeing the bare minimum from any of these guys. But everyone's imploding after 1 week of bad results. Come on, man. Act like some champions, B.
What I want to say is, football's an interesting game. So we're talking about back-to-back losses. Champions League, 2 in the Premier League. The 2 in the Premier League are last-minute goals.
Yeah.
The games that they won were last-minute goals. So in terms of Liverpool's season, even when they were doing well, fine margins, because if those last-minute goals don't go in, you have a Russell Martin situation where you're drawing all of your games suddenly. Do you get where I'm coming from? So their season so far has been defined on fine margins, where we're used to Liverpool being more than that. A lot of that comes from Salah goals output and everyone else chipping in. I think that what Slot needs to do after this international break is he needs to get some of those guys bedded in quickly. Like, someone has to land and be running. And it looked like Ekitike was going to do that. And Isak comes into the fold. I think he needs to land it
Isaac
quickly.
has had no pre-season, bro. So he's literally finding his form.
And this is the thing.
McAllister was injured during pre-season. He's finding his form.
So what you're doing now is, I don't want to call it charity, but it's kind of like you're trying to like gas this thing up, but try and get everyone. And it's really and truly, okay, cool, but this is when it starts getting a bit disjointed. And listen, man, like, we've all played football. We know that there's egos in football. We saw what happened in the celebration with Ekitike. Bro's probably thinking like, I deserve to be playing. Like, I've put up my dues. you already got Liverpool fans saying, "Hold on, is Ekitike
Do you know what the thing is though? You go on.
Just quickly, I was going to say, I think Lies dropped a great clip as well, I think, on his Instagram, where he was talking about their press as well and how different it is compared to other years. I think Gakpo off the ball, he's touched on, and I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot as well. Salah last season, do you remember he almost catered the system so he doesn't have to do the tracking back? That's where you lot actually took advantage yesterday. All your wingers yesterday, all of a sudden, Garnacho, everybody was eating because none of the wingers were tracking back and following their man, and Cucurella and all these men were bombing on. Then you take into account Isaac having to get his fitness up. The press ain't the same. I saw a video midweek of him running out of breath halfway on the pitch, and I'm like, bro, that press is what Liverpool lived and breathed on. That's what they were. Gegenpress FC, 100 miles an hour. Even when it was the slot transition, it still followed through. It was like a muscle reflex.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing, because last season, Slot picked his team up from Klopp, right? And one thing we gave him credit for is that he kind of rectified, maybe you'd say, Klopp's mistakes in a way, right?
Made it more efficient.
You know, Trent was doing the whole centre mid thing towards the end of Klopp. He put him back to right back. He profiled Gravenberch correctly. He stopped wasting Salah's energy, defended. So he rectified a few things that Klopp didn't do, right? But you know what managers have as well? You're talking about players' ego. Managers have egos. Managers want to say, I did this. I built this. So he brings in his own players, right? And this is the Slot team. This is what Slot's team looks like now. These are his 5 signings. Frimpong can't get starts. When he's playing right wing, looking like Nathan Dyer. You've got Kirkes. Each week I'm seeing Robbo play Kirkes, so you ain't getting the best. You're not feeling Kirkes. Florian Wirtz.
Is that not partly on Kirkes there?
But Florian Wirtz, you're trying to force him in on the left hand side. It's imbalancing the team. You're putting him in the 10. Then all of a sudden it's imbalancing the team. Szoboszlai is having to play right back just so guys can start. This is on Slot. That is on Slot. So it's away from, we've given you your credit. Everyone's giving you credit for last season, but at top teams, you got to keep going. Imagine if Pep just stopped after 1 year. No, it's about you got to keep going. And this is now, which we kept saying, he did what he needs to do. Now he's getting his money, and it's going to be the slot looking Liverpool. And at the moment, it's not looking great because the reason, now the Van Dijk thing you said, we can't really quantify it, like, because we can only give our sympathy, right? But we have to still talk about what we're seeing on the pitch. And all season, even in them 5 wins, people, we were saying, hey, Liverpool, okay, they're getting a bit lucky, but we were saying champion spirit, they won all their games in the last 10 minutes. So it's the Liverpool fans are frustrated because they've seen it for the whole season. It's not actually just now, it's for the whole season. So it's not like 1 week of back. It's like, hold on, it's getting a bit worrying. Now, obviously they're turning now on like Wirtz and all that type of stuff. That's just gonna happen because everybody's gonna be like reactionary and stuff, right? But at the end of the day, Slot made big signings and he's going to be judged on what they do and how Liverpool do from there. You look at all the hype about Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes and all these owners and stuff. Remember, the famous thing is, don't forget, Klopp wanted Brandt, but Michael Edwards, the genius, got him Salah. Yeah, you're forgetting that Klopp is a generational manager and still had to make it work. Michael Edwards, bro, you spent 400 mil. Richard Hughes, let me see Slot turn that into, then I'll start saying you're the GOAT CEOs. But everybody was, even last season, a lot of people were kind of talking down on Klopp, like, let's see, bro. Let's see. You know, he won the league, but let's see. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not even saying he's above criticism, but my thing is I feel like the first bump in the road you've had this season, and you could say maybe it's been coming. You're not even gonna like try and let him work it out. Guys are already calling for his head, and I'm just like, it's a bit too
overreactionary.
No, saying calling for his head is overreactionary.
I feel like that's too way over the top in terms, and no one's looking at the players individually. In my opinion.
No, I think there's something else. There's something else that's got to be mentioned because you're mentioning the profiles he's brought in. You're mentioning how the system has changed and the press, right? You got to think about the players that left. Whether you think Darwin Núñez is a baller or a donkey, one thing that guy did was run through the ground. Diaz, the same thing as well. So when we're talking about,
lost a lot of key. They lost a lot of squad fillers, which were key in this success.
And ultimately, like we say it all the time, like you live by your sword, you die by your sword, and that's why constantly when I spoke about Slot, all I said is, he has to start optimizing the players like he did last season and get the best of them quickly, because that's what he did last season. Everyone was singing from the same hymn sheet quickly.